Hey, I was going to build something just really tiny. I'm working on a few bigger videos, and I've been so busy coding 24/7. Now I just wanted to pump something out real small for the channel, well, for you guys. So I thought I would do just a quick little hunger thirst system on how I would set it up. So I'm going to need a couple things. I'm going to put a box, and I want a UI. Now, UI is important. Now, depending on how you make your hunger and thirst system, if you're doing a lot of updating to your canvas, you might want to have a canvas that only has a few things that are like kind of dynamic things that are constantly changing. Because anytime you do a change to a UI element and it updates, it has to repaint everything in your canvas. So if you have things that don't change very often or really don't change at all, you might want to put those in one canvas, and then your dynamic stuff, put them in a different canvas. If you have a lot. Just a thought. So anyways, I am going to put, and you could do this with a slider. Actually, you know what? I'll do it with all three, just because. We'll do that. And let's just line those up so we're not. Set this over to scale screen size. Make sure we're on a normal resolution. There we go. And let's just stick these bars. Now we'll stick one over here, one over here, one there, and I'm gonna make this bar like this. Now I'm gonna actually do two images. I'm gonna do two different types here for images. So we have this image, and this one's gonna be a scale. So if I'm gonna scale it, now I could have it in the middle like that. That's totally plausible. I'm actually gonna go over to the anchor thing and hold down shift, and I'm going to put the anchor on this side. You can put it any side you want. You put them on the bottom, top, whatever, and then when I scale it, it'll go like that. Right? Pretty snazzy. And I'm just going to shrink that down a little bit. Let's give them some pretty colors. Make his font a little bigger, put him in the middle, let's make him nice bright and white, just like that. We can see him nice and clear. And the other image, let's give him a sprite. I'll just do a square, and we'll use the filled. Now this is a great thing, depending on how you want to do it, but obviously it looks very similar to the other one, but different effects. You can do some pretty neat things. It might be a little more dramatic looking if we used a sprite of some type. Let's use that guy. Let's go put him down to a normal size. Let's go 50 by 50. Right, because now he's like that. If I wanted to, I could go radial. Alright, so now we have 4 different bars. So we're going to have our stuff, and we're going to have some other stuff. We're just going to have some stuff. So if we wanted, say, hunger, or sations, to be sated, I don't know, hunger in our world. So I could just use a float add and set the value to a bar. That works. Not flexible, not cool. So we need some variables. what do we need? We need the current value. We're going to put them in the inspector just so we can see them. We need a max value. And we need a, let's say, degrade value. And one more we're going to stick in there, and this will be the sneaky one, is we're going to use, we'll call it a changed value. I'll stick that in there. So we have a few variables. So I'm going to put a new state here, and this is going to be our starting, or our start math, because life isn't any fun unless we're doing math, right? And we'll give that an event. We'll just call it tick. Tick, 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 tick. So what do we want to do? And we're going to build it out in a string of things. And normally I would probably do it in just one action, possibly two, but I'll break it down to make it nice and clear. So we have these variables, and those variables are ticked out here so we can see them. That's what the input does. So we could say, okay, let's give it a max value of 75. We'll start at 75. Might be a good thing in your start to set float value. This way, if you forget, it's not a big deal. Current value is going to be our max value. There. Now, if you leave that at 0, it doesn't matter, because on your start, it's just going to reset to your default. So what happens in a tick? So during a tick, we want to, we're going to use float operators. They're not actually technically operators, I don't think. Maybe they are. And we're going to take our current value and our degrade value, and we could say subtract those, and I'm going to put that right back into the current value. And then, see, I'd probably do this all in one, but let's just break it down. So there's our starting math. Now the next one is, let's what we're going to do is we're going to do another float operator, and we're going to take the current value and the changed value, and we're going to add them and store that into the current value. Cool. And that'll make it easier for changes. Like if it's hunger and you're eating something, you want the value to go up, it's just a nice, easy, clear way to make sure that'll happen, right? So we're going to take away our degrade value, which maybe it will be 5, and we're going to adjust our changed value, and then when we're done that, we are going to what do we want to do? We're going to want to set float. Oh, let's set float. Let's set our change value back to 0, because we've now used it. So now let's get rid of it. And then the next thing we need to do, we'll just call this default. And of course, the other thing we need to do is another float operator, and we need the current value, the maximum value, divide, and this is going to give us our, we'll call it the normalized. So I guess we have one more value. So once we have the normalized, we can set Set slider. Right, so once we get our normalized value, let's just continue breaking that up for us. Just like I said, normally, like, you can actually put these all in one state. I'm just doing it this way, just to hopefully a little more clear. To our normalized. Right, because the normalized, now you don't necessarily have to do that, but it makes it nice for if, because you don't have to change your min and max values here then, because it doesn't matter how big your bar is technically, it'll always, because you can read these values in here for your max. This is more or less just a percentage. I mean, if you wanted to just go to 100 or 75 and make a max, that's doable too. This is just a little more universal. So after that, really all we need to do is we can do a next frame and just go back and just keep looping, but then we're frame dependent, right? So we want to let's just do a wait. So it's a little more time based. Oh, and then we're just going to go tick. And that will be update UI, and it resets. Right, so here I could say, let's just go like this and we'll call tick. So now if I hit play, there it goes, it drops down. Obviously drops down pretty freaking quick. On that aspect. So one thing we could do if we really wanted to make it smooth and not frame dependent, right? Because I mean, like you don't want it just on a next frame event going like this. I mean, we're going to do it anyways. I'm going to show you how we fix that. But because if you're running a game and the person's running at 30 frames per second compared to someone's running at 60 frames per second, this would be ticking twice as often on the faster system, so it's going to degrade quicker. So how do we fix that? Well, we know our degrade value is 5. Now what if we wanted that 5 per second? Well, how do you do per second when we're running a system down like this? Well, let's get time info. Right, and let's just go delta time. So now we get time, delta time. I always call it TDT on this. I have no idea why. And then let's do another float operator. So we're going to get the time. We're going to take our degrade value, and we're actually going to take our time delta time, multiply them, and this one's going to be our subtract value. And then we're going to subtract our current with our subtract value instead. Now that we've introduced the time delta time, and we use this guy as a multiplier port, it doesn't matter what your frames are, right? So now we're in the next frame, but it doesn't matter if you're running at 60 frames, 10 frames, 500 frames, it will adjust accordingly, right? So there it is. It's degrading nicely, nice and smooth. It's beautiful. And if I slow this down, it slows down. If I speed this up, that of course speeds up. Okay, cool. So let's if that's our hunger, so if this bar is our hunger, let's now copy this thing and paste it as new. Let's call this one thirsty. Apparently I hit Y accidentally. And we can keep things the same. This time we'll use this image, which is going to be based on scale. So all this can be the same. We really don't need to change anything. I mean, if we wanted to adjust maximum value and maybe it degrades a little slower, we can just do it here. Right? We don't need to go crazy and completely alter all the logic. It's just not needed. Of course, though, we do need to adjust this guy because we don't have a slider anymore. We have a scale for this image, which will be on the X, and we're going to just use our normalized value. There we go. So now we should see this guy dropping, and this guy drops. And he's, like I said, now he's an image using scale. Pretty snazzy, right? So there is one more thing you're probably going to want to put in here. Is after all this stuff, before we normalize it, let's stuff in a little clamp. Actually, we could probably do it after we normalize, because normalize would be 0 to, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to want to normalize, or we're going to want to clamp the current value after we've hit it with the change value. So after the change value, so we've affected it, we've added it, subtracted it, we've done whatever we can to it. We're going to go 0 to the max value. Copy that. Let's go into this guy and do that. Just paste him right in there. So now it's all good. So the other thing is now we could copy this. So we have hunger, thirst. Let's go with a sanity. That's always a good one. Let's make it low and degrade super quick. So that's just the way shit works. So the sanity, we're going to use a text. Let's do a percentage, and let's show, like, let's say like 99.0%, right? Not just the number. So we're not going to update the scale. So now we have this normalized value. So we would need to do one more piece of math. Is this normalized value? We are now going to multiply that by 100. Let's call this text percent, and then we are going to convert float to string. So after we've multiplied it, we're going to take the text percent, and we now need a, should call this something better than that. Let's just call it text percent. And let's go 0.0. Perfect. All right, so now that'll give us like the 99.9 kind of idea. And then let's go build string. All right, so now we're going to build a string, 2 parts. We're going to take our text, and then at the end we're going to add a percent sign, and this is going to be our final text. Now we just need to set the text. If we're using Text Mesh Pro, we'd be setting the Text Mesh Pro text. Either one, same idea. So final text. So there we go. Now let's hit play and we can watch this guy be an actual percent. There he goes, and super fast. Cool, and you notice how it stops on 0, right? Because it's clamped. Let's just slow that down. Let's go like that. So we have one more. Let's copy the first one here. And we can call this one, I don't know, this will be our infection. It's going to go down real slow. So this one is going to be the fill. So in our update, we are not setting a slider, we are just set fill. That's it. And because we've normalized it, we don't have to do anything extra. See, I'm not using the every frames. Like I want the whole thing to run every frame. Right? So now we can see it's slowly ticking away. I mean, it's going to be real slow. I should probably speed that one up. So our infection, let's speed that one up. There we go. Life is good. Okay. So there we have those. Now, what if we want an event to happen on one of them? So I'm just going to do it on one of them. I won't do it on all of them. So after we've updated the UI, let's just come down here and let's just do a quick little flow compare. If current value is 0, or less, might as well go with a less as well. If it's greater, we're just going to continue. There we go. So send the event or continue. So continue can go here, send the event, we can send something and then go here, or just go here and kind of end it. So let's, you know what? Let's go like this instead. Let's go both sides. So let's just set color. What are we dealing with? You know what? Let's send. Let's put a new image. We're going to change that image's color. So his graphic color, if it's bad, it's going to go red. Beyond that, it's going to be green. So they would both finish, and they can just come down here. So now on the red, you might not come back down here. It might be death, or you might wait until they have done something. Right, so this guy, just stick him up in the corner. And let's just check that one real quick, and then we're going to add one more little thing to finish up the video. So he's starting as red, so there's something already completely wrong with that. And what did I put that on? I put that on the hunger. Did I have it backwards? No, I did not. So current value. Oh, well, yes. it would help if I made this color a different color. That would be far more important for a visualized thing to actually visualize the proper colors, right? Because now it's green. You know, let's ram it up and turns red. Okay, cool. So that works. So what about this little cube? Let's add an FSM, and in it we're just going to have a mouse down. So mouse down is, let's set FSM float. So we are going to choose our player, and we can choose any one of those, right? And we're going to set the changed value to our value, and then we can destroy ourselves. And you play particle effects and whatever the case is. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to make this guy an input, and this guy one of those. And well, you know what, let's do player hunger. So then let's go into here. You'll see why I'm doing this in a second. So we're going to get our owner, doop, and store ourselves into that global player hunger. So now this cube knows it without us having to drag shit in. So this set FSM, let's do something a little cool with that. Let's get into here, and by here I mean tools, and by tools I mean those tools. So let's go into a enum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name an enum these things. So let's go our starvation enum. All right, so we're going to have, I think we have 4 elements. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go hunger, copy and paste, and thirsty. Paste all those. And infection, copy and paste and save. That's all he's going to do. And then of course it wants to build the scripts after, which is normal. And if you've never used enums, they really are cool. So let's now convert enum to string. So the enum type, we have to select our com, my game. I've got a few of these things, our starvation. And that's going to be our enum, and we're going to store it into set FSM right here. And then we need set FSM, we need enum to be an input and our value to be an input, right? Because now the cube, we can set it like that. So now actually even probably move this over here. I can save template. Starving food. We'll call them that. All right, so there we go. So so this guy can now, he's going to give hunger 20 points. And I can say, for example, duplicate this guy, stick him over here, and this guy's going to do our sanity by 10 points, and this one here can do our thirsty by 30 points. Just makes it nice and easy flexibility, you know. So I should be able to click on these things and get points back, and these should destroy themselves. So let's go ba-doop, and it climbed. That one climbed, and this one should be the sanity then. There we go. Just like that. And you could also send an event on those as well. I don't think we need to. Okay, so we have hunger, sanity, thirsty, and infection. Let's set these up a little higher. There we go. Now we can go to our player and let's set these degrade values up a little higher. So now that should be a little more clear. And then of course this will be the end of the video though. I think this is pretty solid in the ways of having to do bars, which this would be, you could use these for stamina, like I said, hunger, thirst, you could do all sorts of things. You could adjust the maximum values by stats. Building it that way with math just makes life so much better, so much more flexible than just say doing a float add. Alright, so he's down there, so let's click on this guy. There, we got 50 points there. He went green, he flicks red, 50 points there. We got our points there, and we got our points there. So there you go. There is a very flexible, useful system. And these could all, of course, be templates themselves as well. If you wanted to get fancy and put them all into one FSM. Well, anyways, we'll talk to you guys later.